Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Weather update from the wilds of Scotland. First of all, here we are. Gary Muirhead. Morning, Gary. Morning, Dan. It's snowing here, pal. Snowing in Scotland. It's not here. It's raining, but it's not snowing. I know this is becoming a theme of the show, but I do need to point this out. At 5:05 this morning, Dan Cullen said, "Top of the morning, ladies and gentlemen." He also said it was raining in Hertfordshire. And then Peter McKenna at, where was Peter? 5:08. Morning, Dan. Dry here, but a tad cool. Not freezing, though, which is a plus. Yes, why people are turning up at that time of the morning, and Lord alone knows. I'm going to say good morning to Ken Hatcher, who's also got some weather and pizza. I don't know if that means pizza is falling from the sky, but yeah, whatever. And Jim Turner is here as well. Morning, Jim, and morning, peeps. Let me press your respective buttons. There's Jim's. I'll do Ken's in just a moment. Got an absolute stack to get through today. A very quick update. I heard literally 10 minutes ago, excuse me, the National Demolition Training Group has a new chairman. And that new chairman is the outgoing president of the NFTC, John Lynch. He succeeds someone else who wasn't particularly good, but that's a good thing. I tip my hat in John Lynch's general direction. Good luck in the new role. So, yes, let me take that away because we've got a lot to get on with. So without further ado, I'm going to roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road now. It is Monday, the 10th of February. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition. In today's show, we've got a new name in electric equipment. Devellon delivers. Rocky Mountain High with Bobcat. We've got some push-pull scraper action, which is lovely to look at. And Liebherr looks ahead to Bauma 2025. Plus, in my morning monologue today, I have consulted my crystal ball and I see an escalation in fly tipping in our future. We'll get to all that in just a moment. But first, we do have to attend to the small matter of our mystery machine. Back after this. Yeah, I can tell you that, well, I don't think it's much of a clue because we do this all the time. The machine I'm about to show you, or the little bit of machine I'm about to show you, was featured on this very show as a global exclusive. No other press person had seen it until I did. Yeah, true story. So here we go. This is the mystery machine. There, that's what it looks like. I'm looking for a make and a model, and the model is quite specific. So but bear that in mind. That's the wrong thing. I want, bear with me a second. My screen has gone very, very strange. There you are. Let me get back to there. That's how I normally show it. I'd like a make and a model if you would be so kind. While you're figuring that out, let me very quickly remind you of our question of the day. Yeah, nice, easy one today. Question of the day is this. Assuming we all drink tea, coffee, or possibly both, what is your favourite brand? Now, personally, I haven't drunk coffee since about October last year, so I don't have a dog in that particular fight. But tea-wise, I'm going with Builder's Tea first, Yorkshire Tea second. But what about you? I can tell you that Ken Hatchery is a big fan of the coffee Co-op Gold. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't drink it now, but I think that's a good shout. Chris Ford says Nescafe for coffee. Cadbury's drinking chocolate. I don't drink tea. Chris, I thought you and I could be friends. You don't drink tea? You call yourself an Englishman and you don't drink tea. How do you fix the world's problems if you don't drink tea? Dan Cullen, going back to the mystery machine, is going for, what is he going for? He's going for a Volvo LH150. It is not. Gary Muirhead says, question of the day, if it's tea, got to be Yorkshire Gold, and if it's coffee, Nescafe Gold Blend. If I can't get my hands on some freshly ground Italian coffee. You see, you can get your machines now with your coffee machine or thing in it. Isn't there a JCB machine that can effectively give you a teas made or a coffee made or something like that? What about putting in there a very, very nice espresso machine? See, that'll get you through the day. Another guess on the mystery machine, which is that one from Chris Ford, who is so close, it's almost staggering, but it's not quite right. It's not quite right. Alex Latham has just arrived. Morning, Alex. How are you doing this fine day, my friend? How's the weather where you are? Let us know in the chat. I'll come back to the mystery machine. I'll tell you what, I'll show you a bit more just to be going on with. As I say, Chris Ford is by far the closest yet, but he's not quite on the money. I'll keep that one going. What do we got here? Jim Turner is going for Yorkshire tea. Big fans of Yorkshire tea. I'm a fan, and Gary Muirhead is a fan. In fact, I've had a cup of Yorkshire tea this morning. Chris Ford going for the L120E, which is exactly what he went for last time. Stop trying to pull the wool over my eyes, Chris. You're still not quite right, but you're very, very close. I'll be back right after this. Yeah, Dan Cullen has just gone for the L260H. It's not. Chris Ford has gone for the L150E. It's not that either. All very close, but not quite on the money. Now, it's not often I come across the name of a new company, particularly a European one, but we have. We've got a new name in electric machines, and they look like this. I think that looks very smart, apart from one small thing. Anybody else think that the twin battery pack on the back there gave the machine the impression that it had buttocks? Or is that just me? I honestly don't know. Garvin over at Mostly Diggers, morning Garvin, has just gone for Volvo L110E for our mystery machine. It is not one of those. What do we got? I can tell you, we do actually have a winner. Ken Hatcher says, he's tracking in reverse. I didn't even notice. Jim Turner says, just as I've always said, battery machines should be. Yeah, indeed. Yes, we've got lots and lots of people basically hitting the post. So we've got the L150E from Chris Ford. We've got the L110E from Chris Ford. Gary Muirhead going for the BL71. Chris Ford going for the L20E. It's none of those things. It is, in fact, one of those. It is the Volvo L120H. In actual fact, I'll go even further than that. It's the L120H, which is the electric conversion. And just to prove it, I can show it to you now. There you are. They worked very closely with Parker Hannifin to basically take a diesel machine and turn it into an electric. So Dan Cullen, more points on the board. Becoming oddly predictable, isn't it? I may as well just swallow the cost of the postage and just send him all the prices that I have. And if he doesn't win 1 month, he can just send some back. Congratulations, Dan. Well done. Very, very good answer indeed. Let me take that away because we've got more to come. We're off to do a bit of Rocky Mountain High in just a moment. No, we're not. We're going to see Devellon, where Devellon delivers. Nice truck action as well.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Apparently, we're having issues over on Instagram. I don't know why that is, but if you are watching on Instagram, please let us know that you can see us. Looks like we've actually frozen over there, so my apologies for that. Yes, Develon. It's a very, very quick film, this, but I like it mainly for the truck.
I would recommend Develon 100 times over and over again. Having run many different brands of machinery before, I think Develon's really got this right. These machines are smooth, they're extremely reliable, do everything that we need them to do. I love being able to communicate not only with Develon, but with the dealer as well to provide feedback. It's really cool to kind of be a part of that. They're asking us what our operators like most about the machines, which I really like, and I know our guys really like that too.
I've just restarted over on Instagram. Hopefully that's going to be working. Dan Cullen says, "Oh, not sure how I got that." Well, I know how you got that. You know your stuff. I think that's about the size of it. So congratulations once again. Yeah, nice truck in the Develon film as well. Let me get back to where I belong. Yes, we are going to the Rocky Mountains in just a moment. Back after that.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, Frank Kennis just said the 8-ton Develon looks nice. It does, although I have to admit, was very, very distracted by the truck, and I'm not even a truck man. I wonder if Peter McKenna's anywhere to be seen. I think he'd have enjoyed that. Yes, Rocky Mountain High, as our friend John Denver, sadly no longer with us, John Denver used to sing. So, Rocky Mountains with Bobcat.
I'm Eric Neiman, the owner of Rocky Mountain Stone Creek. We do all things concrete, excavation, utilities. We started out super small, pickup truck, wheelbarrows, shovels. We went from sidewalks and driveways to big commercial projects.
I'm Jameson Neiman. I'm Eric's son. I've worked at Rocky Mountain Stone Creek most of my life. I'm learning new things, and I'm learning the career behind it.
I love going to work with my sons. It's a good bonding time. He's learning new skills, incorporating those skills like all of us. Every job has its challenges, but we adapt and overcome those challenges. What are we waiting for? All the options on the machines, the backup camera, the attachments being versatile makes it so much better. Will you move those boulders? You can get them in tight spaces. They do the work of 10 people. The more equipment you have and the better you are at using it, then the more versatile you are as a company.
I think my dad's work ethic is extraordinary. He'd come home from work exhausted, tired, and he would still provide for the family. Even now, we have the machines, so it makes the job way easier. So looking back when he didn't have them, it's extraordinary that he was able to take this business to where it is now.
People call us because we have the right equipment to get the job done. We're up for the challenge. Hey, now let's get to work.
I have to say, that really resonated with me. I get to work with my son on a fairly regular basis. In actual fact, I'm not going to bore you with the details. I was actually on the radio this morning, BBC Radio London, and I'm off to BBC Studios to do a TV spot this afternoon, and I may well be taking Fred with me. Just because, why not? Get to hang out in London with my son. How would you like that? Man, they like Bobcat. Yeah, rightly so. Why would you not like Bobcat? We're going to be back with some cat push-pull scrapers in a second, and some very nice music as well. So stick around. Yeah, I came across this on Saturday afternoon, watched it time and time again. We often talk about the way that operations are choreographed. which they are, particularly in demolition. Everybody knows their job, everything is choreographed. But get a load of this. Push-pull scrapers in action. Could honestly watch that crap for hours. Dan says, wow, cool vid and tunes. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. The music was my choice. The video, somebody else's. Ken Hatch says, Lionel's got them. Lionel Whitnell, I'm assuming you mean. Unlikely to be Lionel Richie. He's not a big fan on the old scrapers, as far as I know. We've got one final film for you, which is Leap Air at Balmer, which is, those that have been to Balmer, Leap Air at Balmer is a big deal. Back after this. Yeah, I'm not even going to introduce this. This is Leap Air at Balmer, the biggest pull in the industry, I would have thought. Big kit and big money and big stand and big everything, but that's the way that Leap Air roll. Obviously, that was a look back at 2022. 2025, I'm expecting to be even bigger. Chris Ford says, home territory still family owned. Must admit, they make some nice kit. the funny thing with it, for those of you that have been, please ignore me for a second because I'm probably going to be preaching to the choir here. When you walk up to the Liebherr stand, that's what you see. You see those three big machines, usually a material handler at one end, a big truck at the other, and then the big face shovel in the middle. Fantastic. Awesome, awesome, awesome. What you don't see is that behind that, there are probably 30 cranes, and there's probably 50 other machines as well. I know my personal favourite from the last Bauma was the 980 demolition machine in glorious red. That was one of a number of machines. There's usually 2 or 3 dozers back there. There's usually about a dozen excavators of various configurations. There's wheel loaders, X-Power and beyond. There's a little demo area. Last time they had a Hyundai machine going back and forth doing its thing. That doesn't do it justice. It really is an incredible place. If you are going, it's hard to go to Bauma and not go to Liebherr. I can't imagine why you would want to, but if you do get over there, you're in for an absolute treat. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, do please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very, very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I shall return forthwith with my morning monologue in just a moment. I should really have like a gypsy scarf on my head for this bit because, well, stick with me. Welcome to Mystic Mark's Parlour, where I shall study the runes and gaze deeply into my trusty crystal ball to tell you of the demolition and construction industry's immediate future. Yes, the mists are clearing and I can see an image. It's an image of a country lane. Beautiful, picturesque. But hang on, what's this? Amidst this scene of pastoral beauty is a huge pile of demolition and construction waste that's been dumped illegally. But why? All the mists are rolling in again, but I'm seeing pound signs. Following the spring 2024 budget, the government announced that the cost of landfill tax is set to rise by £22.45 from the 1st of April 2025. This rise in the standard rate marks a significant jump in landfill tax compared to previous years, rising from the current £103.70 to £126.15. Prices are expected to rise across all waste stream disposal as the industry and recycling markets react to absorb this change and incorporate the heightened taxation, energy and labour costs. And inevitably, this will have a knock-on effect within the demolition and construction industry. But it's likely to have an impact way beyond that. Whenever taxation on waste disposal increases, let me do that bit again. Whenever taxation on waste disposal increases, history has shown that do need to get this right. Whenever taxation on waste disposal increases, history has shown one certainty: fly tipping will increase. It's an unfortunate yet predictable response to rising costs as individuals and businesses seek ways to dispose of waste without absorbing the additional financial burden. And while the government may have intended for this increase to drive greater recycling and sustainability, the reality is often far more problematic. Local authorities and environmental agencies have spent decades fighting a battle against illegal waste dumping. Fly tipping scars rural landscapes, clogs urban alleyways, and pollutes waterways. The rise in landfill tax will only exacerbate this issue, leading to an increase in waste being dumped in places where it doesn't belong: farmland, roadsides, and even residential streets. At a time when councils are already struggling to enforce existing fly tipping laws, an increase in illegal dumping will further strain resources, requiring more surveillance, clean-up operations, and legal proceedings. While the government may argue that increasing landfill tax is an environmental move designed to reduce waste and encourage recycling, the question remains: who ultimately pays for this decision? And the answer, as always, is everyone. With waste disposal costs soaring, many demolition and construction companies will be forced to pass on the additional burden to clients. Others, unable to absorb the offset, unable to absorb or offset the increase, may turn to illegal means of disposal. Councils will bear the cost of cleaning up fly-tipped waste, diverting funds away from other essential services. And the irony here is glaring. Money that could have been used for sustainability initiatives will instead be spent on clearing illegally dumped waste. Private landowners are often the biggest victims of fly tipping. Those who own large plots of land frequently find themselves being targeted by unscrupulous waste disposers. Worse still, they still bear the financial responsibility of removing the illegally dumped material. Toxic waste, construction debris, and hazardous materials don't just disappear. They contaminate soil, poison water sources, and harm the wildlife. The rise in fly tipping won't just be a nuisance, it will be an environmental disaster. As the cost of legal waste disposal rises, illicit waste operations are set to boom. Rogue waste disposal firms, sometimes disguised as legitimate businesses, will offer cut-price services that seem too good to be true, because they usually are. Instead of responsibly managing waste, these rogue operators often dump it illegally, leaving clients none the wiser until enforcement authorities come knocking. And make no mistake, waste crime is big business. It's a lucrative industry, with organised crime groups exploiting the situation to make quick profits. But what happens when illegal waste accumulates? It's not just an eyesore. It fuels fires, pollutes ecosystems, and creates dangerous health risks. From asbestos-laden rubble to flammable chemical drums, the dangers of unchecked waste dumping are very, very real. One of the government's key arguments for raising landfill tax is to drive more waste away from landfill and towards recycling. But this overlooks a fundamental problem. The UK's recycling infrastructure is not equipped to handle this sudden influx of diverted materials. Many construction and demolition materials, such as plasterboard, treated wood, and insulation, require specialised processing facilities. If those facilities can't cope with demand, or if recycling costs remain prohibitively high, businesses will still face tough choices. In addition, recycling markets fluctuate. When demand for recycled materials is low, waste that would otherwise be repurposed can end up in the landfills anyway, despite the best of intentions. If landfill taxes continue to rise without simultaneous investment in recycling infrastructure, the situation becomes a vicious cycle. Higher costs, more fly tipping, no real environmental benefit. If the government was truly committed to reducing landfill waste, a tax increase alone will not suffice. Instead of simply punishing landfill use, the government needs to introduce financial incentives for companies to adopt innovative waste reduction strategies, such as modular construction, deconstruction, and material repurposing. The higher landfill tax also needs to be accompanied by more robust enforcement against fly tipping. Heavier penalties, increased surveillance, and better reporting mechanisms are essential. Without investment in modern recycling plants, the push towards sustainability remains theoretical. Funding should be directed towards scalable, cost-effective recycling solutions. Businesses and individuals need clear guidance on waste management best practices. Many turn to illegal disposal simply because they're unaware of the alternatives. The demolition and construction industry needs to be involved in policy making. Their expertise is invaluable in creating waste management strategies that are both practical and effective. This landfill tax increase is a warning sign of deeper issues within the UK's waste management framework. It highlights a growing divide between environmental aspirations and economic realities. While in theory, the goal is to reduce landfill dependency, in practice, the lack of proper infrastructure, economic incentives, and enforcement mechanisms makes widespread illegal dumping almost inevitable. If the government truly wants to prioritise sustainability, it must recognise that simply making landfill disposal more expensive is not a solution. Without a comprehensive strategy to mitigate the risks, this policy may do more harm than good. And the reputable part of the construction and demolition industry now faces a dilemma. Absorb the increased costs or pass them on to clients that are already looking to cut costs. Unfortunately, the less reputable parts of the industry are already eyeing alternative disposal methods, and those methods could be coming to a street, field, or country lane near you. My apologies, I had a real trouble speaking this morning. There's a lot going on. I do apologise for that. What have we got there? That young lad doing well content with media. You're talking about young Lucas Haddock? Yeah, absolutely. Wonder how many cranes and machines Liebherr have made. Lord alone knows. Lord alone knows. Probably not as many as some of the how do I describe it? The mass market manufacturers, because I've said it before, I'll say it again. Liebherr is very much the BMW of the plant industry, I would say, possibly even the Mercedes of the plant industry. So I think, yes, they make loads and loads of machines, but I think their target is make fewer but better. But yes, lots and lots of machines. So yes, just going back to my morning monologue there, which was barely comprehensible because I was tripping over my tongue all the way through it. Every single time there has been an increase in the cost of landfill tax, there has been an increase in fly tipping. And when you think about it from a purely practical point of view, you've got the government increasing the cost of landfill disposal, supposedly to encourage people to do more in recycling. But as a result, there will be a diversion of some waste into fields, country lanes, whatever it might be. And then the money that they've brought in, one way or another, be it a landowner or a local authority, will then have to go towards cleaning that up. It strikes me as an absolute false economy, and a particularly false economy given the fact that it's that thing again. And I keep coming back to this. In our determination to be more sustainable, do less harm to the environment, we're making decisions that ultimately do not make things better within the environment. Prime example, we saw some electric machines this morning, which I was very impressed with, demountable batteries and everything else. But those batteries still need to be, manufactured at environmental cost. They need to be charged at environmental cost, and ultimately they will need to be disposed of at an environmental cost. So yes, while those machines are running, they're silent, there's zero emissions, but to get them there, you've expended a huge amount of emissions, and to recharge them, you're expending more emissions, and to get rid of them, you're expending even more emissions. Exactly the same here. We're going to save money, or we're going to save the planet by reducing the amount of material going to the landfill, instead of which it's going to somebody's back garden. And then somebody will have to pick that up at cost, both financial and environmental cost, and it will have to be disposed of somewhere else at financial and environmental cost. It's a false economy. And part of the spiel that I was saying there is the fact that the demolition and construction industry needs to be involved in the policy making and decision making around this, because these decisions are being imposed upon people that can actually have a direct and positive impact upon sustainability and upon waste disposal. I mean, I've got to be absolutely honest. I mean, I'm not entirely convinced there's a great deal more that the demolition industry can do. It's already a fantastic recycler and reuser and repurposer of materials, but construction, are they fully educated? I remember being told many, many moons ago, somebody's going to be building a bunch of houses. So they it's a modular house. We know exactly what it's going to be. We're going to need 100,000 bricks, for example. Now, best order 120,000 just to be on the safe side in case a few get broken in transit. And then what happens with those 20,000 spare bricks at the end? Do they go back to a depot? Are they sale or return like newspapers used to be? Or do they go in a skip somewhere? And it's things like that need to be addressed. And I think you'd make so much more impact with that than you do with just putting an increase on the landfill tax. And going back to that landfill tax, I reported on it when it was introduced. I can't remember when that was. It was a good while ago, 20 plus years ago. And at the time it was introduced, it was part of the law written around it was that there was no ceiling to it. I can't remember how much it was. It may have been 100. No, it would have been less than 100 quid, because I remember it going to 100 quid. But even let's say it was £50 or whatever it might be. which became 60, which became 80, which became 100, and there is no limit to it. And yes, if you could genuinely look at it and say, yes, we are outlawing demolition and construction waste from landfill, then okay, I'll take that on the chin. But are we? Are we doing that? And it also makes no allowance for the fact that, some of the stuff that comes out of demolition and construction sites, certain composite materials, plasterboard, polystyrene insulation, requires special handling. Have we got that? I don't believe we have. There was a period a decade or more ago where a bunch of landfill sites were actually closed, their licenses revoked, and they were closed. All again, part of this plan to discourage materials being dumped into landfill, presumably for environmental reasons. The problem with that is that now those landfill sites are further apart. Rather than every town having one or every city having half a dozen or whatever it might be, they're now further apart. So if you're hauling material from London, for example, it's quite possible that your nearest proper landfill that can take C&D waste is going to be in Essex or in Kent or in Surrey. So you've got to haul all the way out of London, belching diesel fumes into the atmosphere, and then you've got to take your empty wagon back in again. Makes no frickin' sense, people. It was only a few weeks ago, 2 articulated lorry loads building waste was tipped in a country lane, blocking access to locals. Yeah. And when you actually see, there are, if you have a look on YouTube at fly tipping, they're so blatant about it. I saw one probably 2-3 months ago, where literally, a little tipper just drove down a country lane and there are people stood there and they've literally just upended the tipper and driven off. And it wasn't even a case of we'll dump it in a lay-by or we'll dump it by a 5-bar gate. It was in the road. Just tip it up and there are people stood there shouting, "What are you doing?" with far more ripe language than I'm using. And they just cracked on and carried on and then just drove off and left it behind. And where is the comeback on that? And don't let's forget, we've had situations over the past few years where we've had illegal waste companies who are basically taking in waste. They own some farmland or something like that, and they just basically take it in and just store it. Don't bother segregating it, so you've no idea what sort of nasties are in there, be it chemicals, asbestos, or whatever it might be, and it's just left there to fester. Now, as far as the demolition contractor that has employed their services, as far as they're concerned, they've arrived with a wagon, they've taken away the waste, they've got a receipt for it. As far as they're concerned, they've done right by the world, right by the waste. They've sent it on its way. In absolute truth, what they've done is send it to a field and line somebody's back pocket. Yeah, not good at all. So there is my thought for the day. I am going to end it a bit lively today because I do need to get ready for my trek into London. I don't know how many of you are actually, not many, I don't think, not that I'm seeing in the chat, but I am on BBC London Evening News this evening. They're pre-recording it. I'm with a lady called Riz Latif. I don't actually watch BBC News very much, but I'm going to see Riz Latif this afternoon to film a bit about the Grenfell Tower demolition. I was on BBC Radio London this morning, so if you've got BBC Sounds on your mobile phone, you might like to go and have a listen to that. I have to say, BBC London spoke to a guy called Aaron Paul this morning. Actually gave time for answers. I am very conscious of the fact that, I'm more than happy to do it and to, fight the demolition industry's corner on this stuff. But a lot of it, I get the impression it's just a case of we want to have a bit of a dig at the government for deciding to take down Grenfell Tower, but we need somebody to, a hook to hang it on. So we'll get somebody from the demolition industry and then we'll just talk about how disgusting it is that it's being taken down. In fairness to the folks this morning, Aaron Paul and his team there gave you plenty of time to explain the situation. So if you do get a chance to go and give that a listen, please do. The government are just useless. They make up new rules and regs over a pint. It's madness, yeah. There is, and I realise this is a really naff and cliched thing to say about these things, But there is just the lack of joined up thinking. And I do think that part of it is down to not speaking to those that are impacted. For example, the construction and demolition industry. If we increase landfill tax, what will that mean to you? And, if they'd have said that, well, obviously that means that our customers are going to have to absorb that cost, or we're going to have to absorb that cost, or, Mr. Government, you will see an increase in fly tipping. Not us, because we're the professional demolition industry, but not everybody in demolition and construction is as professional as that. But they do it completely independently. This sort of blue sky, ivory tower thinking. Yeah, we need to reduce the amount of material going to landfill. We'll make it more expensive. Yeah, that just means that rather than going to landfill, it's going into a country lane. And nobody seems to be telling them that. And they do nothing towards recycling. They're dumping most recycling stuff in landfill and incinerated. Yeah. Yeah, and yet the crazy thing is, and I say this every time we mention recycling, there is no industry in the world that is better at recycling than demolition. And the reason they're so very good at recycling is because there is an financial imperative for them to be good at recycling. If they were to knock down, not Grenfell, but, if they were to knock down a tower block and just look at it and say, okay, well, all of that, all 20,000 tons of concrete and steel and everything, just bung it in a skip, bung it in a landfill, and we'll move on. It would cost them a fortune. Instead of which, they take it apart piece by piece. They segregate the concrete and the bricks and the blocks and the plastics and the glass and the timber and the steel, and it all goes to different places because there is a financial incentive for them to do so. That is how you make recycling work. If you make it not just attractive, but financially attractive for people to do more recycling. Imagine, I do consider myself to be fairly responsible in terms of domestic waste. I do segregate my general waste and my recycled waste and everything else. But imagine if your local government or your local authority were to say, okay, we really need to be better at segregating our waste. So rather than having 2 or 3 bins, we're going to give you 5. We're going to allow you to manage the waste that goes into those. We will be monitoring, but if you abide by our rules, metals in one, glass in another, plastic in another, whatever it might be, if you abide by those rules, we will take 20 quid a month off your landfill tax, off your council tax. All right, then. I could get behind that. For all the time it takes. How often do you empty the bin in your house? Once a day? Once every other day? It's not exactly a hardship, is it? 20 quid off your council tax? Yeah, I'd sign up for that. But they don't think of that. And when you think about it, because they're not doing that, there is now a group of people, quite possibly a commercial organisation at the other end of that waste stream, who have to take all of my partly segregated waste and then spend money on man, machine, resources to segregate that because I didn't. It's a false economy. It's all a false economy. Anywho, people, that will probably do us for today. As I say, I've got to get into London in a second, so I'm going to love you and leave you all. I'll be back tomorrow with yet more of the same. Until then, everybody, have a fine and splendid day. I hope to see you again on the morrow. Till then, have a good one.